He's going to try to apparently strike an optimistic tone. Apparently the media is saying that's a sign that the president has heard the criticism from former President Bill Clinton that he needs to mix sober talk with a little bit of an upbeat bottom line. One top aide says the president believes we'll meet these economic challenges and lift ourselves out of this recession. He will say that our best days are ahead of us. It's expected that he's going to speak for about an hour. The speech will touch lightly on foreign policy. It's mainly going to be focused on the economy, healthcare, education, and energy. Aides are saying that the address will be thematic and will not get into much detail on the president's plans to deal with the credit crunch and housing crisis. The president will lay out the economic challenges he's been discussing in recent weeks and suggest that many people will have to sacrifice to dig out of the problems. Obama is a self-described eternal optimist, according to the White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs. Mr. Gibbs said, "I think you'll hear him begin the discussion on restoring a sense of fiscal responsibility to Washington and understanding that we have to begin to live within our means." The biggest news of all, and this came out, I believe, on Sunday, is the president announced that he aims to cut the $1.3 trillion deficit that he inherited from former President Bush in half by the year 2013. That would be a miracle. Another part of the president's plans deals with the banks. Tomorrow it's going to start, the so-called stress tests. Officials will begin stress testing about 20 of the country's largest banks tomorrow, with the aim of ensuring that those banks have sufficient capital to withstand tougher economic times ahead. Banks that aren't able to raise needed capital privately will get more government money. According to a gentleman named Raghuram Rajan, a former chief economist at the IMF, he says what we need to do now is to clean out the system so investors will know that there are not more crises to come. These stress tests, if they're followed by action, can do that. Other people are concerned that shining a light on the potential problems of banks could end up fanning investor concerns rather than quelling them. It may also show, of course, how little the government has left to fix the problems of banks after they've spent more than half of the $700 billion bank bailout fund that Congress authorized last week. The Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, the Office of the Comptroller, and the Office of Thrift Supervision have vowed to preserve the viability of systemically important financial institutions and stated their strong presumption that banks should remain in private hands and not be nationalized. As we're giving the news, Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke is testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee in Washington, and he's talking about the stress test, and he's also indicating that the Federal Reserve and the government will deploy any and all measures required to make sure that the financial crisis is eased. He is focusing a little bit on Treasury Secretary Geithner's plan to set up a public-private partnership to buy up the toxic assets that are currently clogging the balance sheets. Geithner hopes that such a plan would provide investors with a clearer picture of those balance sheets. Last night out on Andrews Air Force Base, this plane flew in from Tokyo bearing Japanese Prime Minister Taro Aso. He arrived. He's going to be the first visitor to the White House, the first foreign visitor to the White House to meet with the president. In meeting with Prime Minister Aso, the Barack Obama administration is sending a signal to the world that Japan remains a vital partner in addressing global economic and security crises. Japan, which has the world's second biggest economy, trails only China as the largest foreign holder of U.S. Treasury bonds. These, of course, are holdings that help finance the ever-growing American budget deficit. Japan, of course, is also the linchpin of U.S. security efforts in Asia. There are 50,000 American troops there. Washington's invitation to ASO is being construed as a broad signal to the Japanese political establishment that the American government, and Obama in particular, is going to work with whoever is there. Prime Minister Aso has faced single-digit approval ratings. This is even lower than George Bush, as well as appeals from his own party to resign. This is amidst the worst Japanese recession in 50 years. His administration reached a low point last week when his finance minister stepped down after appearing to be drunk during a World Finance Ministers meeting. And finally, if you're in Berlin today, you know this. Berlin's two main airports were brought to a complete standstill today as a 3.5-hour strike by ground staff forced their closure. An airport spokesman told the Agence France-Presse that around 100 international and domestic flights were either canceled or delayed at Tegel Airport, and about 36 flights were canceled or delayed at Schönefeld Airport. Aircraft were unable to take off or land, as firemen were among those participating in the strike. Also, the ground staffs union launched the strike to increase pressure in wage negotiation discussions with the airport operator. The union is pressing for an 8% pay rise for its 1,500 employees. I guess they think there's no recession in Berlin. I don't know what Angela Merkel would say about that. Stock market is up about 73 points now. All eyes are on Washington. The Federal Reserve Chairman is still testifying. The President's meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister occurs after lunch, and of course at 9 p.m. tonight the President speaks to the joint session of Congress. So everybody will keep their fingers crossed and keep watching. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.